Shabbat Shalom. Happy Passover. How many of you participated in a Seder this week? Okay, almost all of you. It's very fashionable nowadays to question whether Passover really happened at all. Why not? We question everything today. Entire schools of scholarship have developed either to prove that the Exodus from Egypt happened exactly as the Bible describes it, or to debunk the entire notion. Not only that the plagues and the splitting of the sea and the destruction of the Egyptian army, but the whole thing. There was no Moses, there were no Israelites. The Israelites emerged from the hill country of Canaan, not through an exodus from Egypt. It's kind of amusing to me. Evangelical churches like to tell this story of a boy who was sitting in front of a church opposite on a bench, and he had a Bible in his hand, and he shouted, "Hallelujah, hallelujah, God is great." A learned professor at the local community college saw the boy and was wondering what he was so ecstatic about. He asked him, he said, "I just was taught from Bible class this week that God opened up the waves and led the Jews out of Egypt." Of course, the scholar laughed and he said to the boy, "You know, that really didn't happen." And he began to explain to him the latest theories of what actually happened. "It's all easily explained," he said. "Modern scholarship has shown that the Red Sea in that area where they crossed was only 10 inches deep. It was no problem for the Israelites just to wade through." So the boy was crestfallen. The scholar began to walk away, satisfied that he had enlightened the young man about the finer points of atmospheric science. Scarcely had he taken 2 steps, and the boy began to rejoice and called louder than before, "Hallelujah, hallelujah, God is great." The man turned around and asked the boy, why was he now praising God after he had received this enlightenment? The boy responded, "God is even greater than I thought. Not only did he lead the entire nation of Israel across the Red Sea, he topped it off by drowning the entire Egyptian army in 10 inches of water." Faith is difficult. It's always been. It's difficult today. It was difficult then. The Torah describes in great detail the complaints, the doubts, the lack of faith, the apostasy of the generation of the Exodus. But it is especially difficult today. We live in the prove it to me era. We live in the information age, the age of science. We have developed elaborate methods of reasoning and exacting standards of proof. But remember, proof in a scientific way has never been the standard of religion. If anything, faith begins where proof ends. We take a leap of faith when we have no other satisfying explanation. Faith is knowledge too. It's just not scientific knowledge. It's possible to know God, but it is not possible to prove God by scientific standards of proof. Reason, cold, hard reason, is only part of our makeup. It's only one way we learn, and not the only way. Imagination, love, hate, feeling, passion, intuition, these are also forms of knowledge. And in any case, as French philosopher Alexis de Tocqueville wrote, there is no philosopher in the world that does not believe 1,000,000 things on faith. And as William James wrote, we cannot live or think without some degree of faith. Faith is synonymous with working hypothesis. The person of mature faith doesn't really care whether you can prove that the plagues occurred entirely as written in the Bible, or whether the Exodus from Egypt even happened at all. This is scientific knowledge, an aid to, but not a replacement of, religious understanding. The faithful want to know not how the plagues occurred, but why the plagues occurred. What do we learn from this event about tyranny, freedom, history, and God? I've never fully understood why anyone but a fundamentalist literalist would be troubled by evolution. Even human beings can create evolution in creatures. We breed dogs and horses and other animals. Selective breeding has, over time, altered their makeup. So if we can do it, why can't God do it? The whole point of science is to unlock the mechanism of the world. Why does it undermine faith if we discover what this mechanism is? Why do the laws of gravity or the Big Bang contradict the belief in God? To the contrary, such discoveries enhance faith because they allow us to peer into the mind of God and to understand how it was all put together. Hallelujah! God is great. Nothing about religion can be contradicted by science. At its best, religion embraces science as a friend whose rigorous methodologies and standards of proof allow for a deeper, more mature religious approach. But our vast scientific knowledge has caused a palpable loss of reverence. Some of the mystery of the world has evaporated before our eyes. We cannot look at a summer thunderstorm in quite the same way as the ancients did. Mark Twain wrote, "We have not the reverent feeling for the rainbow because we know how it is made. We have lost as much as we have gained by prying into that matter." At the same time, we must recognize the extraordinary risks we take in putting all of our eggs in the basket of science. The most critical danger facing the world today, in both military and ecological terms, is that our technological capacities have outstripped our moral capacities. Continuing rapid technological progress without corresponding moral progress will bring destruction beyond anything our world has ever seen. We need moral training to enhance and augment our technological training. Science tells us what is. Religion tells us what ought to be. In science, we see chemical equations. In religion, we see moral equations. In science, we teach through numbers. In religion, we teach through poetry, music, symbols, and parables. The question, did the sea really split, is almost beside the point. We seek much deeper meaning. We seek to discern the fundamental truths that are hidden within the texts. What do I learn? What are the lessons for our times and for all times? Religion is not about prove it to me in the mathematical sense. It's not an exercise in clear-cut answers that you can check by looking at page 101 in the religion textbook. This is often the mistake that even religious people make. They simplify the religious task and reduce it to the most basic and literal perspective. Religion is the repository of the most penetrating questions, the most passionate emotions, and the most intense dreads and dreams of the human creature. It's the place where we embark upon the quest for meaning. It is the path, the journey that most characterizes religion, not the arrival. If we understand that the religious task is to ponder the deepest mysteries of the universe and to ask the hardest questions, then we must also appreciate that we will not find all of the answers, at least not to all of our satisfaction. Faith is about believing even when you do not have all the answers. It is faith in the journey, in the pathway. We are constantly pushed back to religion because it is only religion that puts at its center the search for meaning. It is a search that even secular philosophy cannot fully satisfy, because the secular philosopher seeks to understand the concept of God. The believer seeks to know God. The philosopher seeks an objective distance. The believer seeks subjective closeness. The philosopher seeks logic. The believer seeks love. We yearn not only to know, but to transcend, to break free. It is only religion that purports to place our lives in perspective, not of the moment, but of eternity. And it is only when we satisfy this need for meaning that we can truly be content with ourselves.